Hello, welcome to the Opinionistics. I'm your host, John Lone. In this episode, no co-host, because reasons, as always. Introducing from somewhere in Hawaii, Matthew Gray. Matthew Gray.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes. So, Matthew, what is it that you do for a living?
Tell me a little bit about my bio and what you read about me that interested you and you thought that your audience would like this.
Alright then. So, a palette of skills. Culinary artist, metabolic health maestro, entrepreneurial guru, conversational craftsman, literary savant, media connoisseur, Epicurean explorer, radio luminary, menu innovator, idea generator, life coach, friend extraordinaire, and much more.
You know, you should hang out with me all the time and give me that kind of an introduction to all the new people I meet in my life.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah. It's always so much nicer when someone else can do an intro like that. It's just so much easier that way.
Okay. Good point.
What would you like to know?
Now, I want to know what inspired you to follow the route that you are following right now?
You know, probably my mom had a lot to do with the culinary aspect of my life. And then my father probably gave me a lot of inspiration as to being an entrepreneur. So I would have to say the parents were the ones who were my inspiration for the things that I've done in my world.
Nice. And what was life for you growing up?
Well, I grew up in New York, moved to Los Angeles, and then moved to Hawaii in 1993. And so, yeah, that's been my travels. I can't move any more west and still be in the United States.
Yes, very true. What is your favorite dish to prepare?
Would that be for you or for myself?
For yourself.
For myself, I'm kind of on the simple side nowadays. So, I might make something Asian or Indian, seafood, something along those lines for myself. Those are the things that I really like. But if I'm cooking for a friend like you, I would try to make you something that I think you'd really enjoy.
Fabulous. And what ideas do you have to get an idea of what kind of food people would like to enjoy eating before you start making the food?
If you ask good questions, my friend, you get good answers. So you have to explore a little bit. And that's what I've always done throughout my life. When I was a private chef and when I was traveling with rock bands like the Eagles and Pink Floyd and Fleetwood Mac, I would always ask my clients or my friends what they enjoy eating, and then I would try to improvise and make something along those lines that they'd enjoy.
Fabulous. Where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
I can't even see 20 days down the line. How about you?
Well, so much is happening to me right now and possibly in the next few years.
I'd love to hear about that. Tell me a little bit about yourself, because up until recently I was unaware of you, and now you seem to be everywhere.
Oh, all right then. So, as of this recording, I'm a third-year university student, and it's my final year. So come around this summer of 2025, I'm going to graduate, and by the time I graduate, I am going to be looking for jobs in acting and voiceover work, and of course, there are going to be lots of connections in the industry, and from that point on, who knows what's going to happen to me? There's so much that not even I could ever imagine the opportunities I could do.
Oh, that's very cool. Now, what part of the world are you in?
Manchester.
Ah, nice. I went to school in London, so I'm pretty familiar with the UK. And yeah, you sound like you have a great voice, and I think voice acting would be a lot of fun for you.
Yes, it sure will be. A lot of my mates have said that I should get into voice acting. And you know what? I'll take their word for it. I'll give it a shot, because, well, I'll have to do it at some point, because so many people keep reminding me of it.
Definitely something worth doing. And there are probably a lot of agents who are looking for voice actors and people along those lines to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing? What about your podcast here? How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing the podcasts for nearly 3 years.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah,
So you're an old pro at this.
yes, I am.
Why do you do it in audio only instead of doing a like a video podcast that you'd be able to get, more eyeballs on you?
Well, I want to challenge myself. Like, I want to utilize the different visuals at some point in the future. And also, audio was like the format that I started with. So before using Riverside, I was using Anchor. They didn't have a video option. The reason I started Anchor, even though they didn't have a video option back then, I was asked by a guy in Scotland who currently runs a content creation to creator group. And we had a podcast that we all did together a few years back. It doesn't exist anymore. And he asked me, would you like to start your own podcast? And I said, yes, I would like to start my own podcast. So I tried to get an understanding of what it is like to have a podcast, what needs to be done to make a podcast. Anchor was the only platform that I'm aware of, as it's the platform that me and other people in the content creator group that I'm part of had mostly been familiar with.
Mm.
And over the years, I've got an understanding of the guests I brought on, how to get more guests, and of course, the world as a whole having these guests on.
Well, that sounds good. So you've interviewed a lot of people, I guess, over 3 years.
Yes, I have.
Any of them stand out or that I might have heard of?
I remember there was a a retired NFL star that runs a cybersecurity company named Sean. I don't know that's his first name. Howard Berg. I had him on.
He sounds familiar.
Yes, Howard Berg. He holds the Guinness World Record for fastest reader. So that's certainly one guest that stands out to me. And other guests, I remember in the first season, I had two of my mates that went to the same college as me. They're actors like I am, and they actually have a very, very good success. They have been on shows for the BBC. They've appeared in a Taco Bell commercial. They're working at a Jurassic World outpost outside the shopping center where I'm from, and yeah, they're doing very well for themselves.
You mentioned that one of your earlier guests was someone from a former NFL player. Is the NFL well known and popular in the UK?
Well, the only time I ever heard of the NFL is when they ever come to London.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard of it, but it's not as big of a deal to everyone in the UK as a whole as it is in the US.
Right. Yeah, I know that they've been coming there on a yearly basis. There are a few different games that they play there.
Yes, I think a couple of celebrities in the UK usually only attend the Super Bowl of the NFL
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in America, and that's the only time I ever hear non-stop for like a day or two about the NFL. A celebrity from where I'm from or somewhere in the UK, they go over to a stadium where the Super Bowl's hosted, and I hear so much coverage about the Super Bowl and about which team has won the Super Bowl. And of course, the BBC does do news headlines regarding the win of the Super Bowl and have interviews with former NFL stars. And yeah, it's quite an experience hearing about the NFL for such a limited time period throughout the year.
Yeah, it's super popular here in America, but just like we don't get a lot of cricket information, you probably don't get a lot of NFL information.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Wow. I've lived in London. I've lived in New York. I've lived in Honolulu. Wherever I've wanted to be, that's where I've taken myself. And so, yeah, I don't have any dreams of being anywhere other than where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I go back and forth, depending on what time of the year it is. I usually prefer cold weathers, but also, on the other hand, I'd like to live somewhere where the weather is very warm. Not too hot, but at least there's sunshine year round mostly, and Yeah, I just like the heat, but I don't mind the cold either.
So
But
where would somewhere warm for you be? Would that be Spain or Portugal?
yes, Spain or Portugal. And also Brazil is another one.
Have you been to those places?
Well, for a long time, every year, every summer, I have family in Brazil. My family visit my other family in Brazil just to see them throughout the summer holidays. And then August, September comes around, and then I go back to the UK, ready for school.
Oh, that's very cool that you have the opportunity to travel like you do.
Yes. What was the largest thing you have ever seen?
The Earth from space. What about yourself?
The last time I remember, the largest thing, I think it had to be. I'm not sure if the Shard was around like the first time I went to London, but I do know the largest thing I've seen frequently is a couple of high-rise apartment buildings in my city. And quite recently, there's been so many skyscraper building projects in my city. Before, only the Beetham Tower was the only skyscraper, and it was the tallest building in Manchester. But quite recently, there's so many building construction projects for high-rise buildings. So, yeah,
How many stories in the tallest building in Manchester?
I haven't checked. I
More or
know
less.
more or less, at least 20 stories tall. That's the
Okay,
minimum. That's as low as I
gotcha.
think I'd go.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Burj Khalifa?
Oh yes, I've heard of
Yeah.
I've heard of that place many, many times.
Yeah, I've seen it on YouTube. I haven't visited it personally, but it looks like an amazing place.
It sure is. Well, besides being a chef or music artist, have you ever met any other famous people throughout your life?
Oh, yeah. President Clinton, uh, tons of rock and roll people, Robin Williams, Dan Aykroyd, a lot of famous Hollywood types, actors and actresses, all of that. Because I lived in LA for a long time, so I got to, meet a lot of those people and work for them. And so, yeah, that meeting famous people and well-known people is something that just happens when you're in close to the industry.
Yes, very true. What should they teach in high school, but they don't?
Hmm. That's a good question. They should probably teach practical aspects of life and growing up, how to balance a checkbook, how to engage in conversation, emotional intelligence, things other than what they teach nowadays in the educational system, which is basically uh, memorizing and then regurgitating. So it's hard to learn in that kind of a system. So I would kind of veer away from what's happening right now and start to engage in real communications.
Absolutely agree. Communication is mostly the key to a lot of things in life.
It is. Scientists say that social skills is the single most important aspect of someone's personality that will bring them success or not.
Oh, yes, absolutely. If you could travel back in time, what decade would you want to live in?
Okay, it's traveling back. Let's see. I don't know how far back I'd want to go, but I think maybe the 1920s would be an interesting time, the Roaring Twenties, about 100 years back.
Oh, yes, those were the days. Even
They
though I never
could have
lived them.
been.
Yes. Is there any particular food categories that you haven't tried preparing in yet that you would like to try someday?
No, you know what? I'm proud to say that I've cooked and tasted so many things out there. I would like to revisit some cuisines, but I'm pretty familiar with things. And I've cooked all different kinds of things as well. So, food wise, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty qualified and have a pretty deep knowledge base of all different kinds of foods.
Sounds great.
What about you? What do you like to eat?
Well, usually I like eating pizza, possibly chicken, beef is another one. I'm also open to eating vegetables like broccoli, possibly peas. I like fruits like oranges, apples, grapes, but just mainly those three fruits I enjoy eating most. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, pizza, chicken, beef.
What about doner kebab?
I never tried doner kebab.
Isn't it really popular there? Because I remember when I was in London going to school, we'd have it all the time.
Well, I think there's a doner kebab place somewhere in my city, which is close to my university. I'm not sure if many people go in there, but I know that there is a doner kebab place, and it does open quite regularly, as many food places does.
What about Indian food? It's popular in the UK. Do you eat a lot of Indian?
No, I don't particularly eat Indian food, but I know Indian food generally is quite popular, and there are many Indian places all
Right.
over the country. I think one every 3 miles, roughly, estimated guess. So that's at least frequent Indian food places in my city there are.
Yeah, that's something I would eat all the time when I was there, and I still enjoy to this day, just not as frequently.
Fair enough. Would you rather speak all languages or talk to animals?
Oh, I'd love to be a polyglot.
Me too. Where was the furthest you traveled to from where you're originally from?
I once flew from Honolulu to London to see a concert.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's about halfway around the world just to see a concert.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm not sure if I could survive a plane journey that long. The longest I've been on a plane journey was 11 hours from London Heathrow to Sao Paulo on the way to see my family in Brazil.
Is that a non-stop flight, or is that with stops, the 11 hours?
11 hours is the one of three flight connections. So there's a 40-minute plane ride from Manchester to London Heathrow, 11
Hmm.
hours from London Heathrow to Sao Paulo, then roughly an hour, 10, 20 minutes roughly from Sao Paulo to Goiânia, which is the city most of my family are in, before I arrive to see my family.
So do you speak other languages besides English?
Well, no, not at the moment, but I am learning a few languages.
What
All
is the native language in Brazil?
Portuguese.
And so you don't have a handle for Portuguese yet?
I understand a few basic phrases in Portuguese,
Uh-huh.
so I can like introduce myself and communicate, but I can't hold conversations in Portuguese at the moment.
Right, right. Yeah, that would be helpful, especially if you have family who are living there.
Yes, of course. Where do you spend most of your free time?
In my office, in my studio, doing podcasting, editing, that's probably where I spend most of my time.
Honestly, me too.
So, what kind of editing do you do?
Well, with Riverside, it's very, very convenient, although it can be a hassle with device limitations. In terms of the editing, they have like this AI editing tool, so I
Hmm.
just press the AI and it just does most of the clean cut to the point editing for me. However, I think their AI is just too precise and too quick, so I just do editing manually myself. Like I can set the pace on just at least getting rid of the silences and the filler words. That's immediately taken out. Personally, yeah, I think that's it. Just the only time I edit is just taking filler words and just silences in between talking.
Yeah. Audio editing is tricky, but not as tricky as video editing. So the combination of the two can really take up a lot of time.
Yes, that is so true. What is your favorite ice cream topping?
Well, let's see. It's going to have to be some sort of chocolate or fudge or something like that because, that's so good.
Yes, I agree.
What about you?
Well, I do like sprinkles, digestive crumbs somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I like digestive biscuits, so of course I like the crumbs topped onto my ice cream. M&M's is another one, and maybe caramel. I haven't tried it, and I don't like caramel on its own, but somehow I would like to try caramel someday.
You really should. I mean, life is way too short to miss out on caramel.
Well, I can't argue with that. What's your favorite season?
Autumn.
Yeah, autumn's a good time.
Yep. It's not too hot, not too cold, and it's really pretty. The landscape is really pretty.
Oh yes, it really is pretty. If you can get an exotic pet, what would it be?
It would be some sort of a parrot.
Nice.
What about you?
Well, I would like to possibly get a puma as an exotic pet.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a toucan. What else? Maybe a tiger. However, that's as far as I'd go in terms of exotic pets.
Do you have any pets at home, domesticated pets?
Oh no, no.
Oh, how come?
Me and my sister always wanted a pet, but my parents says, well, we can't be asked to take care of them because if we did get pets, they'd be the ones taking care of them.
Right, right. Kids always ask their parents for puppies or kitties, and then they never take care of them, and the responsibility always falls to the parents, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, honestly I can't argue with that either.
Yeah.
However, even if we do get a pet, my mum would rather get a small dog because they can't get up the stairs. And that's the thing. Pets in bedrooms and whatever they do in the bedrooms, that is a big concern with my family. And yeah, that has happened with family in Brazil that do have dogs. And yeah, the rest is history.
What is it about not wanting the pets to come into the bedroom?
Well, when I was visiting family in Brazil, uh, there's this very small dog that my aunt, uncle, and two cousins have, named Pipoca. It's Portuguese for popcorn, in case you haven't noticed. Pipoca, although trained, I think, for some reason, still takes a crap on the carpets
Mm.
occasionally, and my aunt has to and ends up trying to clean it up. The stain, it doesn't go away completely, but well, it's a hassle to begin with to get rid of that.
Well, we have two kitty cats, and they're always either in our lap or laying in bed when we go to sleep at night. So, we're both used to having all different kinds of pets throughout our lives.
Yeah, very
Oh,
true.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. How much time do you spend on the internet?
Way too much. A lot. Because, a lot of my world related to my podcast is done on the internet, obviously. And then, of course, doing the editing is also primarily done while I'm facing a screen.
Yes, absolutely. I'd say the same, not just for podcasts, but my own entertainment in general. And although I can control myself and I can get off the internet, well, what is there for me to do that isn't technology involved?
Right. That's kind of sad in a way, but it's real what you're saying. But
Yes.
it's too bad that since social media has become so popular since I guess about 2008 that the current generation, and that would include you, don't really know about what used to happen, what we used to do prior to the internet.
Yes, that is very true. If you were chosen to be a colonist for a new habitable planet, would you take the offer?
I don't think I would. No, that just doesn't, I don't jive with that. How about you?
Well, I would take the offer. However, an argument can be made. Why do you want to go to another planet when there's already enough issues on the planet we're on right now?
Well, it's perhaps because people who want to inhabit another planet may think that things are better and fewer issues would exist in a new place.
Only for the issues they have on Earth and bring them over to the new planet.
That's possible too, sure.
Yeah. If there is possibility to go to another planet, fix the issues we have right now before jumping over. Because if people don't get their act together and don't fix the issues they have now, Well, how is life going to be any better on the new planet we could be on?
Yeah, it's still going to be inhabited by people from here. So until people fix themselves, it's going to be difficult to fix their environment.
Absolutely. What's the weather like where you are right now?
Always the same, just always beautiful. Mid 80 Fahrenheit and beautiful soft winds, and it's just gorgeous always here.
Fabulous.
How about where you are?
Well, winter is crawling upon us in the UK. This morning, it was foggy. Somehow, it was very foggy, and the coldest it has dropped to was 1 degree Celsius, which is close to like 40 Fahrenheit or 35 Fahrenheit.
Okay, so not quite freezing, but darn close, right?
Yeah, quite cold.
Mm-hmm.
And that is all we have for this episode. It was great having you on, Matthew, talking about your works as a chef, the dishes you created, the celebrities you have prepared food for in the past, and everything culinary related, and so much more. It's been great.
Thank you so much for having me on, and please feel free to send us a link so we can go ahead and put it on our social media to promote your show.
Sounds great. And until next time, stay opinionated.